celebration of Black History Month, we are back to tell you another compelling story of our history. Our history books often exclude the experiences of Black people in Canada and the stories of their truths, bravery, perseverance, and resistance.
We want to take you back on a journey that begins before Canada was ever born. A journey that begins 400 years ago and continues today.
In our last video, you heard us talk about Africa as the birthplace of humanity. You heard us talk about the great contributions of many great Black Canadians, both then and now. We have more greatness to share with you.
Did you know that the first recorded Black person in Canada was Mathieu de Costa, who arrived in Canada in the early 1600s? That's approximately 400 years ago. Some historians say that Mathieu, a well-educated man, was able to speak several languages, including French, Dutch, and Portuguese. He also spoke a language used by fishermen on the Atlantic coast that was a mix of French-Spanish dialect and First Nations languages, including Mi'kmaq. Mathieu de Costa is remembered and celebrated as a skilled interpreter and the first recorded man of African heritage to visit and live in Canada. Mathieu de Costa, who first arrived in Canada in the early 1600s, is now regarded as a national hero.
Have you heard of Africville? Did you know that Africville was a Black community located on the outskirts of Halifax, Nova Scotia? For more than 200 years, hundreds of individuals and families lived there and built thriving communities. They had their own land, stores, a school, a post office, and a church. Africville was formed by Black families as a way to maintain their culture and identity.
Blacks settling in Atlantic Canada were promised land grants, food, and shelter. However, due to racism and discrimination, the city of Halifax refused to provide many amenities other people of Halifax took for granted, such as sewage, access to clean water, and garbage disposal. Residents of Africville who paid taxes and took pride in their homes asked the city to provide these basic services on numerous occasions, but no action was taken.
By the early 1960s, these residents were still without water or sewer services, and many residents were living in substandard housing. The residents of Africville were forced into public housing, and Africville was destroyed. The last remaining Africville home was destroyed in January of 1970.
The Africville Apology was a formal pronouncement delivered on February 24th, 2010 by the city of Halifax, Nova Scotia, for the eviction and eventual destruction of Africville, a Black Nova Scotian community. Africville is Black history, and Black history is Canadian history. Africville is a site of pride, identity, and advocacy and resistance.
Did you know that Black communities have also existed in Ontario for hundreds of years? Hamilton, yes, the city of Hamilton, has been a center of bold leadership and political and anti-slavery activism for people of African descent. African-descended people have been informally organizing and succeeding in Hamilton for centuries. From the 1800s, Black settlers, many of whom fleeing slavery or segregation, fled to Canada to try and make a better life. When they got here, they faced similar or even more challenging barriers to equal treatment.
The Mossell family is an example of a successful family from Baltimore who left the United States in the hopes of sending their children to school in Canada. They established a homestead in Hamilton, only to discover segregated school system here. In 1843, a letter written by the people of color in the town of Hamilton successfully fought against and won the right to send their children to non-segregated schools. They were one of the first communities to do so.
Did you know the people of Hamilton elected Canada's first Black member of Parliament, Lincoln Alexander, in 1968? Black people have been in Hamilton for centuries, and continues to play an important role in the social and political landscape.
When it comes to messy communities, Thornton and Lucie Blackburn had one of the messiest. In 1834, before Toronto was even called Toronto, the streets were so difficult to navigate. They were nicknamed Muddy York because of the flowing mud and, on occasion, the raw sewage along King Street. Many saw a problem. Thornton saw an opportunity.
The Blackburns were born into slavery in Kentucky but escaped to York and settled there. Shortly after they arrived, Thornton established Toronto's first taxi service called the City. In a way, Blackburn's cab was the Uber of the 1800s. Thanks to Thornton, Torontonians were able to travel above the mud. This plaque now sits at 19 Sackville Street to commemorate the work of Thornton and Lucie Blackburn.
Did you know that even as the Blackburns' wealth grew, they continued to live modestly, contributing generously to the community and the anti-slavery movement? Blackburn's cab was recognizable through York, and as such, when Toronto established a public transit system, the same yellow and red was adopted on TTC vehicles after 1921.
Have you ever heard of the Elgin Settlement? Also known as Buxton, was one of 4 organized black settlements developed in southwestern Ontario in the mid-1800s. Many African Americans flocked here, not only to escape to freedom, but also for the tremendous educational opportunities available. While the community was officially known as the Elgin Settlement, at its heart was the Buxton Mission.
The settlers at Elgin placed a high value on education, and their Buxton Mission School was better by far than the government schools. Prominent businessmen from Toronto and Buffalo sent their children to the school, and half of the students in the formerly black school were white. All were attracted by the high quality of education.
The students often taught their parents as they too were eager to taste the added freedom that education can bring. Blacks could receive a high quality classical education, and many who studied there went on to prominent careers in medicine, law, politics, and other esteemed fields in both Canada and the United States.
Black people were here,
Are here,
And will continue to be here.
Building communities and fighting to be recognized and acknowledged as fully equal.
So let's set the history books straight.